Canada crisis, international students now seeking asylum just to survive. Welcome back to Canada Chronicles. Today we're diving into one of the most urgent stories shaping Canada's immigration landscape, why thousands of international students are turning to asylum just to survive. Behind the headlines are real struggles with rising costs, shrinking pathways to permanent residence, and new policies that are reshaping the student experience in Canada. Stay tuned until the very end, because we'll explore a critical question. Is asylum becoming Canada's new immigration backdoor? You won't want to miss how this could impact both students and the country's immigration system in the years ahead. Make sure you subscribe to Canada Chronicles and turn on notifications so you never miss these important updates. Let's get started. A deepening crisis. Canada has long promoted itself as a safe and welcoming destination for international students. But beneath that image, a crisis has been unfolding. Thousands of students who once arrived with dreams of a brighter future are now filing asylum claims. Not because they are fleeing war or persecution, but because they are struggling to survive financially, legally, and socially. A system designed to protect refugees is being reshaped by economic desperation, a record surge in asylum claims. In 2024, international students filed more than 20,000 asylum claims. That was nearly double the year before and 6 times higher than in 2019. The increase caught policymakers, educational institutions, and the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada off guard. In just the first quarter of 2025, around 5,500 additional claims were lodged, an increase of 22% compared to the same period in 2024. While fewer than 2% of international students pursued asylum, even this fraction is enough to strain the asylum system and dominate national headlines. Why students are filing asylum. Several forces are pushing students into corners where asylum feels like the only option. Permit caps and fewer approvals. In 2025, Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada imposed a national cap of 437,000 study permits. That represented about a 10% cut from 2024. Provinces and territories were left to compete for limited spaces, creating widespread uncertainty. Institutions that once welcomed tens of thousands of students suddenly faced shrinking intakes, leading to lost revenue and program cancellations. The expansion of PAL and TAL. In January 2025, the federal government expanded the provincial attestation letter and territorial attestation letter requirement. It now applies not only to undergraduates, but also to master's, doctoral, and most in-Canada applications. Students caught in bureaucratic delays risk losing status, adding to their stress. Collapsing approvals in 2024. In 2024, Canada issued only about 268,000 new study permits, a drop of nearly half compared to 2023, and almost 100,000 fewer than the government's own reduced target. For students already in Canada, seeing friends denied renewals eroded confidence. For those still abroad, hopes of entry faded. For many, asylum seemed like the only legal path left. Work hour restrictions. Since November 2024, the rule has been clear. International students can work only 24 hours per week off campus while classes are in session. In expensive cities like Toronto and Vancouver, that income rarely covers tuition, rent, and living costs. Some students turn to unauthorized work and risk removal, while others see asylum as a way to legally extend work rights during their claims. The economic and human toll. Behind the statistics are painful realities. International students often pay 5 times more in tuition than domestic students, with annual fees averaging around 40,000 Canadian dollars. Add monthly rent exceeding 1,500 Canadian dollars in many urban centers, and the financial pressure becomes unbearable. Families back home often take on heavy debt or sell property to finance these dreams. When the promise of opportunity collides with economic hardship, desperation follows. Many students are steered toward asylum by unregulated consultants who sell it as a solution, further fueling the surge. Institutional pressures. Public colleges and universities also feel the fallout. Ontario institutions, heavily dependent on international tuition revenue, face sharp enrollment cuts in 2024. Program suspensions, hiring freezes, and layoffs became common. While some campuses expanded access to licensed immigration advisors, many lacked the resources, leaving students vulnerable to misinformation. Policy and legal landscape. The Strong Borders Act. The federal government responded to the asylum surge with new legislation. On June 3, 2025, Bill C-2, known as the Strong Borders Act, was introduced. The bill proposes denying access to the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada for anyone making a claim more than 1 year after arrival, if their arrival was after June 24, 2020, imposing a 14-day deadline for people crossing irregularly at land borders, granting broad powers to suspend or cancel immigration documents. Supporters argue these measures protect the asylum system from misuse. Critics warn they will leave vulnerable groups, including students, without protection if they miss rigid deadlines. Public perception and misconceptions. The rise in asylum claims has fueled public debate. Some see it as abuse of the system, but experts caution against oversimplification. The vast majority of international students continue their studies and follow the rules. Only a small minority file asylum claims, often after exhausting every other option. The deeper problem lies in the gap between how Canada markets education abroad and the shifting policies at home. Students arrive expecting opportunity and stability, but are confronted with uncertainty, high costs, and shrinking immigration pathways. Asylum as Canada's new immigration backdoor? Thanks for staying with us this far. We appreciate your time and hope you're finding this information valuable. Here's the critical question. Is asylum becoming Canada's unintended new immigration backdoor? The asylum system was never designed to serve students. Yet the combination of permit caps, attestation bottlenecks, stricter work limits, and reduced permanent residence options has made it a survival strategy for many. Lawyers describe it as an unintended pathway created by desperation. This raises troubling questions. If more claims are driven by economic need, how will the system prioritize refugees fleeing genuine danger? Should students be penalized for policy shifts beyond their control? How will institutions protect their reputations if students they recruit end up in the asylum process? Could asylum backlogs fuel anti-immigrant sentiment that undermines broader support for immigration? Canada stands at a crossroads. It can either reform pathways for international students or allow asylum to morph into an unstable and politically charged substitute. Solutions emerging in 2025. Strengthening legal supports. Some institutions are building partnerships with licensed immigration advisors to ensure students receive accurate guidance, helping them avoid predatory consultants. Reviewing work limits. Advocates argue that raising the weekly off-campus work cap could allow students to meet their expenses legally, though concerns remain about labor market impacts. Bridging programs. Experts suggest temporary permits for students caught in sudden policy changes, such as those affected by school closures or delays in provincial attestation. Cap adjustments. While the 2025 cap is fixed, future allocations could be more flexible, with greater transparency in how provinces distribute limited study permits. Monitoring Bill C-2. As Parliament debates the Strong Borders Act, civil society groups are calling for amendments to protect students who may have legitimate cases but risk exclusion under rigid deadlines. Industries such as healthcare, construction, and agriculture rely heavily on both temporary foreign workers and permanent residents. The uncertainty in student pathways could also disrupt the future workforce pipeline that supports these essential sectors. Closing the loop. From crisis to reform. The surge in asylum claims by international students is more than a statistic. It highlights the gap between Canada's promises and its policies. Students come seeking education and opportunity, yet many are left with shrinking pathways and difficult choices. The way forward is not to blame students, but to reform the system so it is transparent, fair, and sustainable. Thank you for watching Canada Chronicles. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest updates that could shape your future in Canada. We'll continue bringing you the stories and insights that matter most. See you in the next video.